Final War. The Final War from the game Ultra Kill was literally humanity's last war, a global conflict that led to their extinction and the destruction of the planet. A massive worldwide war broke out between all nations, for who knows what reason, and it escalated into total annihilation through the use of mechanical warfare and robots like Gutterman. One of the machines that managed to survive the war was V1, a blood-fueled machine with no emotions, designed to stay alive by harvesting blood. And since all the humans were dead, guess where our friendly robot went to get more? That's right, he went to Hell. With billions of people dying at once, Hell couldn't process all of the souls coming into it, which created a cosmic imbalance. And Hell literally begins to overflow with souls. It got so bad to the point where even God, yes, the creator of everything, went silent. When you enter Hell with V1, one person in particular becomes obsessed with you after you start tearing through everything. His name is Gabriel, an archangel who lost his cause after God went silent, and destroying V1 becomes his purpose. V1 defeats him like 3 times though, so yeah, he failed pretty hard. In the end, Earth is a lifeless wasteland, humanity wiped out completely. The only survivor is a relentless war machine who turns Hell itself into a battleground. The War in Heaven. The War in Heaven is the oldest and most apocalyptic conflict in the Warhammer 40k universe, a galactic war so destructive that it literally set the stage for everything that's going to happen in the future. This war happened millions of years before humanity even existed. The galaxy was ruled by 2 dominant species, the Old Ones and the Necrontire, a short-lived species cursed with rapid aging and obsessed with overcoming mortality. Their lives were short and spent watching the long-lived Old Ones do everything better. And then they met the Cetan. The Cetan were star gods, literal fragments of sentient stars that fed on radiation and souls. The Necrontire made a deal with them, immortality in exchange for obedience. What they got was undeath. Their bodies were stripped away and replaced with living metal. Their souls were devoured. They became the Necrons, eternal machines with no joy and no way out. With the Cetan leading them, the Necrons turned on the Old Ones, and all hell broke loose. The Old Ones didn't go down easily. They used their mastery of the warp to create new psychic species across the galaxy. The Krork, early orcs, the Aeldari, Eldar, and others meant to fight the Necrons and their star god overlords. Time itself began to warp as the psychic energy in the warp reached unbearable levels, and that's when the real catastrophe hit. The constant emotion, death, and torment flooded the Immaterium, and from that chaos, the first Chaos Gods began to form. The War in Heaven created the very forces that would haunt the galaxy forever. Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, the personifications of hatred, excess, manipulation, and decay. Once the Old Ones were nearly extinct, the Cetan began warring among themselves. The Necrons, now soulless machines, realized the Cetan had used and enslaved them. Under Zarek, the Silent King, the Necrons rebelled against the Cetan, shattering them into countless shards using weapons of unimaginable power. And the joke, if you can even call it that, is that this war was fought by godlike beings for ultimate control of a galaxy none of them could ever truly hold. The Yuuzhan Vong War. The Yuuzhan Vong War is the darkest and most devastating conflict in Star Wars Legends. A war that shattered the galaxy, broke the Jedi, and reminded everyone that no matter how many Death Stars you blow up, peace is never permanent. It begins 21 years after the fall of the Empire. The New Republic is finally trying to rebuild, and then the Yuuzhan Vong arrive. Not with hyperdrives or droids or blasters, but with living ships, bioweapons, and a religious hatred for technology. The Yuuzhan Vong see pain as sacred, technology as heresy, and genocide as cleansing, mutilate themselves to gain favor, and communicate through living organisms bonded to their flesh. Their warships are massive biomechanical leviathans, grown rather than built. Their weapons are living creatures, and they can't be sensed in the Force. To Jedi, they're invisible, which is a polite way of saying your New Republic is unprepared, still recovering from the Galactic Civil War. The Jedi, led by Luke Skywalker, are powerful but not ready for an enemy like this. The Yuuzhan Vong launch a massive assault on Coruscant, the galactic capital. Despite fierce resistance, the planet falls. Vong terraform Coruscant into a living jungle, renaming it Yuuzhan Tar. Billions die. The Jedi Temple is desecrated. The Republic collapses. Anakin Solo, the youngest of the Solo children, dies leading a mission to save captured Jedi. His death breaks the family, fractures the Order, and sends his brother Jason down a path that ends in future tragedy. Eventually, through sacrifice, fractured alliances, and brutal counterattacks, the galaxy claws its way back. Jason Solo is captured, tortured, and nearly broken, but emerges with a deeper understanding of the Force, one that lets him defeat the Yuuzhan Vong leadership. Luke Skywalker and his Jedi allies seek Zonama Sakot, a mysterious living planet tied to the Yuuzhan Vong's origins, which plays a key role in ending the war by offering the Yuuzhan Vong a path to redemption and a new homeworld after their surrender. But the cost? Trillions dead. Entire civilizations erased. The New Republic is gone, replaced by the Galactic Alliance. Hundreds of Jedi are killed, and Jason Solo, hailed as a hero, will eventually become Darth Caedus. The Locust War. The Locust War is the central, brutal conflict that defines the Gears of War universe, a war of extinction. fought not across continents but beneath them. This war begins on the planet Sera, a world once torn apart by political struggles over energy called emulsion, a glowing liquid fuel source that promised endless power and delivered nothing but environmental collapse and global war. That was the Pendulum Wars, a brutal 79-year conflict between human nations. But when that finally ended, humanity barely had time to breathe before E-Day hit. Emergence Day. That's when the Locust Horde, a savage, organized force of subterrestrial creatures, burst out from beneath the ground. Cities were demolished, millions died, and the planet's surface was never the same again. The Locust were soldiers that used tactics, hierarchy, they tunneled up from the hollow, an underground world humanity never even knew existed. Their queen, Mira, wasn't just barking orders. She had a plan. The Locusts believed they had a right to the surface because something even worse was coming for them from below. That something worse was the Lambent, mutated locust and other life forms infected by raw emulsion. The Locusts were fleeing death they couldn't stop underground. So what's the very smart thing they did? Brought them to the surface instead. Entire cities were sunk with cedars and corpsers, massive beasts bred for destruction. The Coalition of Ordered Governments, COG, was forced into desperate tactics, like Hammer of Dawn satellite strikes that annihilated their own cities just to deny them to the enemy. The war only ended when Adam Phoenix, Marcus's father, developed a weapon that targeted emulsion itself, wiping out the Lambent and, in the process, the Locust. It was a genocide. Thanos would be proud. Time War. Time War is the most devastating, reality-breaking conflict in the Doctor Who universe. A war so dangerous, so utterly catastrophic that even time itself begged to be left out of it. On one side, the Time Lords of Gallifrey, ancient godlike beings who once swore never to interfere. On the other, the Daleks, genocidal metal war machines born from hate and evolution, who saw every other life form as filth to be exterminated. There were retcon weapons, collapsing timelines, planets brought into existence just to be destroyed again. The Time War was so broken, parts of it were erased from history before they even finished happening. And the Daleks? They kept evolving. They created the cult of Skaro, an elite group of Daleks given free will, because the only thing worse than a Dalek is a creative one. Eventually, there were so many timelines unraveling that entire species were caught in crossfire they couldn't even perceive. Even the Eternals, godlike beings outside of time, left the universe to avoid the mess. That's how bad it got. Literal gods were like, nah, I'm good, and then dipped. The person stuck in the middle of it was the Doctor, who was kind of like a good guy in this story. Faced with a reality that both sides had become monsters, the Doctor made a choice. He stole the moment, a sentient Time Lord weapon, and used it to destroy both Gallifrey and the Daleks in a single firestorm that ended the war. That act shattered the Doctor's identity, turning him from a savior into a war criminal burdened by guilt. Also, it turns out Gallifrey wasn't destroyed. It was frozen in a pocket dimension. The Daleks survived. Of course they did. It's Doctor Who. Nothing stays dead except emotional stability. Galactic Wars. The Galactic Wars in the Helldivers universe are a relentless, brutal series of conflicts that put humanity's elite military force against three hostile alien species: the Bugs, the Automatons, and the Illuminate. Humanity, led by a militaristic government calling itself Super Earth, spreads democracy, mostly by dropping squads of Helldivers into the worst war zones imaginable. Super Earth loves to promote the Galactic Wars as spreading the democracy and protecting humanity's freedom. The government uses propaganda to manipulate the public and control the population, hiding the true cost of endless war. The Bugs are relentless swarms of insectoid creatures that overwhelm enemies with numbers and speed. Their hive minds coordinate massive attacks that crush entire outposts in seconds. They multiply faster than the government's excuses. The Automatons are ruthless war machines, former humans who shed their flesh for steel, now fully robotic and armed with advanced weaponry. The Illuminate are the galaxy's wildcard, powerful psionic aliens who manipulate reality with devastating mind powers, and their attacks can wipe out entire squads before soldiers even realize they're under attack. Helldivers are infamous for accidentally wiping out their own teammates with stray rockets, grenades, or even their own guns. Statistically, you're more likely to die from a buddy's bullet than an alien attack. So yes, trust issues are real. The Q Invasion. The Q Invasion is horrifying cosmic horror from all tomorrows. A war so brutal it bends the very definition of genocide and warfare. Set millions of years in the future, humanity has spread across the stars, only to encounter the Q, an alien race whose war crimes make most galactic villains look like playground bullies. The Q are sadistic, advanced, and utterly without mercy. Their invasion wasn't about conquest or resources. It was pure experimentation on a cosmic scale. They literally saw their creations as art. After conquering Earth and countless colonies, they genetically mutilated humans into bizarre, grotesque forms designed for slavery, war, and even amusement. Forget death. The Q's version of punishment involved rewriting your DNA until you were barely recognizable as a person. They even turned people into living toilets. Entire human cultures were wiped out or twisted into new species, all serving the whims of the Q overlords. Imagine being turned into a literal nightmare just because the Q thought it was fun or efficient. Yes, they were that casual about it. After millions of years of dominance, the Q were eventually defeated by the Asteromorphs. In the end, the Asteromorphs terramorphs, along with other allied galactic civilizations, formed the United Galaxies to combat the Q's monstrous campaign. This victory marked the end of the Q's reign of terror and the beginning of a new era for the galaxy. The Forerunner Flood War. The Forerunner Flood War is one of the darkest and most catastrophic conflicts in the Halo universe, a galaxy-wide war that nearly ended all sentient life and reshaped the fate of the galaxy forever. It all started when the ancient and highly advanced Forerunner civilization discovered the Flood, parasitic, all-consuming life form that infects and assimilates any organic being it encounters. The Flood wasn't just an enemy, it was a cosmic plague, capable of turning entire planets into grotesque breeding grounds for its endless hunger. The Flood arrived first as a subtle parasite, but it evolved as it absorbed intelligence from every host it consumed. Over time, the parasite began coordinating attacks, infecting faster, and adapting. The Forerunners responded with full-scale war, deploying every weapon and technology at their disposal. Entire planets were quarantined, glassed, or sacrificed to stop the Flood's spread. The war devastated ecosystems and civilizations alike. As the Flood overwhelmed Forerunner forces, desperation set in. The Forerunners activated the Halo Array, a network of superweapons designed to wipe out all sentient life in the galaxy, starving the Flood of potential hosts and halting their advance. The decision to fire the Halo Array was grim. It meant genocide on a galactic scale, sacrificing countless innocent lives to save the universe. The Forerunners effectively burned the entire galaxy to stop the Flood. Though the war ended, its scars remain. Flood survived in isolated pockets, and the consequences of the Halo Array's activation echo throughout the series. The Forerunners themselves vanished, leaving behind ruins and relics that shape the galaxy's future struggles.